Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu, and with me is Navneet Singh, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India's President Draupadi Murmu calls upon technical institutions to become future-ready in view of rapid changes in field of technology. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says rise of India is deeply linked with the rise of Indian technology. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur inaugurates 59th Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union General Assembly in New Delhi. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak reiterates his country's commitments to free trade agreement with India. Reserve Bank of India to launch first pilot for retail digital rupee. Legendary athlete P.T. Usha becomes first woman president of Indian Olympic Association. India to take on New Zealand in third and final ODI in Christchurch on Wednesday. And in FIFA World Cup, the Netherlands beat Qatar 2-0 while Senegal lead Ecuador 2-1 in Group A fixtures. President Draupadi Murmu has called upon technical institutions to become future-ready in view of rapid changes in the field of technology. The President was addressing 18th Convocation of National Institute of Technology NIT Kurukshetra, Haryana on Tuesday.
आज पूरा विश्व तेजी से हो रही परिवर्तन के दौर से गुजर रहे हैं। इस टेक्नोलॉजी का रिवॉल्यूशन से नेचर ऑफ जोश में बदलाव हो रहा है। लोगों की बुनियादी जरूरतों में भी बदलाव आ रहा है। इससे इंजीनियरिंग की आप तक की पद्धतियों को भी चुनौतियां मिल रही है। इस टेक्नोलॉजिकल शिफ्ट के वजह से हो रही बदलाव के कारण ये अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण हो जाता है कि एनआईटी कुरुक्षेत्र सहित हमारे टेक्निकल इंस्टीट्यूशंस फ्यूचर रेडी बने.
Pointing to the trend of making salary packages as the criteria for success in education, the President advised students to not judge their success on the basis of the package. She urged students to choose a career that gives them satisfaction and a sense of meaning in life. Earlier in the day, the President addressed the International Gita Seminar organized as a part of the International Gita Festival 2022 at Kurukshetra University. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed happiness over mobile phone exports getting more than double year-on-year in April to October of this fiscal. The mobile phone exports raced past $5 billion mark within 7 months, which is more than double of $2.2 billion that India clocked in the same period of last year. In a reply to a tweet of Minister of State for Electronics and IT Rajiv Chandrasekhar in this regard, the Prime Minister said that India continues to make strides in the world of manufacturing.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says the rise of India is deeply linked with the rise of Indian technology. He was speaking at the 7th edition of the Global Technology Summit in New Delhi on Tuesday.
The rise of India is deeply linked to the rise of Indian technology. It could be semiconductors, it could be 5G, and it could be AI, it could be more commercial space launches and satellite fabrication.
The theme of this year's summit is Geopolitics of Technology. The External Affairs Minister said the theme is timely as technology today is the heart of geopolitics. He added that countries have fashioned their national security decisions by applying technology. Dr. Jaishankar said that one cannot be agnostic about technology. The 3-day summit is India's annual flagship event on geotechnology and is hosted by the Ministry of External Affairs and Carnegie India. The ministry said over the course of 3 days, the world's leading minds in technology, government, security, space, startups, data, law, public health, climate change, academics and economy will debate vital questions related to technology and its future. India has provided financial assistance of $100 million to Maldives. The assistance is in the form of budgetary support to tide over the difficult economic situation in the archipelago nation. The assistance is being extended without any conditions, and Maldives is free to use it in its economic recovery as it deems fit. Speaking at the handover ceremony virtually, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar expressed hope that the financial assistance will help Maldives channelize her energies towards a rapid economic growth. He added that India's Neighbourhood First and Maldives' India First policies have been special, and together they have delivered results. The financial assistance extended by India showcases resilience and reliability of India-Maldives relationship. India's Neighbourhood First and Maldives' India First policies have worked in tandem to safeguard the well-being of people of both countries.
India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur says, media makes a deep impact on people's decision-making process. Hence, accuracy should be a priority in the minds of communicators rather than speed. He was speaking at the inaugural session of the 59th Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union ABU General Assembly and Associated Meeting 2022 in New Delhi on Tuesday. Mr. Thakur said, All India Radio and Doordarshan have always stood by the truth, winning people's trust over the years.
Our public broadcasters, Doordarshan and All India Radio, have always stood by the truth and have won people's trust for their truthful reporting. Coming to today's theme, media's role during the time of crisis becomes very critical as it directly concerns saving lives. Media is at the core of national disaster management plans as dissemination of timely information on weather forecasts and warnings regarding cyclones, floods are critical in averting and preparing citizens for foreseen events.
The minister also appreciated AIR and DD for institutionalizing their mechanism to check facts before going to the masses. He said that during the COVID-19 pandemic there was another challenge of what he called the infodemic.
With the spread of social media, fake news has also proliferated. In this background, presenting authentic information is the prime responsibility of the mainline media. The facts should be properly checked before they are put in the public domain. In the background of fake claims circulating in media during the COVID crisis, we established a fact-check unit in the Press Information Bureau of Government of India to counter unverified claims and present truth to the people.
Mr. Thakur said programs like ABU facilitate Indian media to interact and learn from the outer world to overcome such challenges and advance the interests of broadcasting globally. Speaking on the occasion, Prasar Bharati CEO Gaurav Dwivedi said this year's theme of ABU General Assembly, Serving the People, Media's Role in Time of Crisis, is apt, especially after facing a crisis like COVID. He hoped for a valuable outcome from the event. Prasar Bharati is hosting the ABU General Assembly coinciding with the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav to mark the 75th year of India's independence. The ABU is a non-profit professional association of the broadcasting organizations of Asia and Pacific region. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has said that cross-border terrorism and ISIS-inspired terrorism continue to pose a threat. He was speaking at a conference on role of ulema in fostering a culture of interfaith peace and social harmony in India and Indonesia in New Delhi on Tuesday. Highlighting the role of ulema in society, he said they play a vital role in spreading education among Muslims and countering radicalization and extremism.
Both our countries have been victims of terrorism and separatism. While we have overcome the challenges to a considerable extent, the phenomenon of cross-border terrorism and ISIS-inspired terrorism continues to pose a threat. The aim of today's discussions is to bring together Indian and Indonesian ulema and scholars who can take forward our cooperation in promoting tolerance, harmony, and peaceful cooperation.
Speaking at the event, Coordinating Minister for Political, Legal and Security Affairs of Indonesia, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahfud MD said, ulema have contributed immensely in fostering a culture of interfaith peace and social harmony. He urged all to work together in creating a harmonious society.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has reiterated his country's commitment to a free trade agreement, FTA, with India as a part of his country's wider focus on enhancing ties with the Indo-Pacific region. He was delivering a talk on British foreign policy at an event in London yesterday. Mr. Sunak also pledged to do things differently when it came to China, which he said poses a systemic challenge to British values and interests. The British Prime Minister said, considering the positive aspects of the Indo-Pacific, Britain is joining the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Trade Deal, delivering a new FTA with India and pursuing one with Indonesia. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a commentary, G20 Summit in India, Expectations and Focus Areas. The commentary has been edited by Foreign News Editor Dr. Atul Kumar Tiwari.
India is gearing up for the G20 presidency from 1st December 2022. The G20 or Group of 20 is an intergovernmental forum of the world's major developed and developing economies. It comprises 19 countries: Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Republic of Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, UK and USA, and the European Union. Collectively, the G20 accounts for 85% of global GDP, 75% of international trade, and two-thirds of the world's population, making it the premier forum for international economic cooperation. India is currently part of the G20 Troika, current, previous and incoming G20 presidencies, comprising Indonesia, Italy and India. During her presidency, India, Indonesia and Brazil would form the Troika. This would be the first time when the Troika would consist of 3 developing countries and emerging economies, providing them a greater voice. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the G20 theme and logo for India's G20 presidency. The G20 Summit 2023 would be hosted by India. The website of the same was launched by the Prime Minister. On 1st December 2021, India joined the G20 Troika of Indonesia, Italy and India, the current, previous and incoming G20 presidencies respectively. As a Troika member, India is working closely with Indonesia and Italy to ensure consistency and further strengthening the G20 agenda. India will assume the G20 presidency on 1st of December 2022 from Indonesia and will convene the G20 Leaders Summit for the first time in India in 2023. Every rotating G20 presidency also serves as the G20 Secretariat for the year. Accordingly, the Union Cabinet on 15th of February 2022 approved the setting up of a G20 Secretariat manned by officers and staff from the Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Finance and other concerned ministries and departments dealing with G20 subjects. It is responsible for arrangements and implementation of decisions needed for steering India's forthcoming G20 presidency under the overall guidance and direction of the Prime Minister and concerned ministers. The G20 Secretariat is handling work relating to substantive content of G20 discussions as well as logistics, including preparation of meetings and venues, technical, media and security aspects, and facilitating arrangements for G20 delegates. As the G20 presidency, India will set the agenda for the year, identify the themes and focus areas, conduct discussions and work out outcome documents. The G20 Secretariat will be responsible for smooth transition from the previous presidency, preparations and conduct of all G20 meetings during the year, consultations and coordination with stakeholders, and finally, handing over to the next presidency. India will assume the presidency of the G20 for 1 year, that is from 1st December 2022 to 30th November 2023. Under its presidency, India is expected to host over 200 G20 meetings across the country, beginning December 2022. The G20 Leaders Summit at the level of heads of states government is scheduled to be held on the 9th and 10th of September 2023 in New Delhi. The G20 currently comprises various tracks. One of the most important tracks is the finance track with 8 work streams: global macroeconomic policies, infrastructure financing, international financial architecture, sustainable finance, financial inclusion, health finance, international taxation, and financial sector reforms. The Sherpa track comprises 12 work streams, that is, anti-corruption, agriculture, culture, development, digital economy, employment, environment and climate, education, energy transition, health, trade and investment, and tourism. 10 engagement groups of private sector or civil society or independent bodies, that is, business 20, civil 20, labor 20, parliament 20, science 20, supreme audit institutions 20, think 20, urban 20, women 20, and youth 20. In addition to G20 members, there has been a tradition of the G20 presidency inviting some guest countries and international organizations or IOs to its G20 meetings and summit. Accordingly, in addition to regular international organizations, that is the UN, IMF, World Bank, WHO, WTO, ILO, FSB, and OECD, and chairs of regional organizations, that is AU, AUDA, NEPAD, and ASEAN, India as G20 presidency will be inviting Bangladesh, Egypt, Mauritius, the Netherlands, Nigeria, Oman, Singapore, Spain, and UAE as guest countries, as well as ISA, that is International Solar Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, and Asian Development Bank as guest IOs. While India's G20 priorities are in the process of being firmed up, the ongoing conversations revolve around inclusive, equitable, and sustainable growth, LIFE, that is lifestyle for environment, women empowerment, digital public infrastructure, and tech-enabled development in areas ranging from health, agriculture, and education to commerce, skill mapping, culture and tourism, climate financing, circular economy, global food security, energy security, green hydrogen, disaster risk reduction and resilience, developmental cooperation, fight against economic crime, and multilateral reforms.
China has tightened security with heavy police deployment in several cities, including Beijing and Shanghai, where thousands of people took part in protests in the past few days. They are protesting against harsh COVID-19 curbs, lockdowns, restrictions on freedom, and heavy-handed treatment of citizens. China's zero-COVID policy has upended the lives of millions of citizens, hit their employment and incomes, and slowed down the economy in the past 3 years. US-based Human Rights Watch HRW has said that the Chinese government should respect the fundamental rights of people across China to peacefully protest the government's zero-COVID restrictions. The rights group also called for freedom and human rights. It also demanded that the authorities should immediately release all wrongfully detained protesters and seize online censorship of protest-related information. Over the weekend, thousands of people in Shanghai, China's biggest city and financial center, began publicly protesting the government's strict COVID-19 measures and denouncing the Chinese government's authoritarian rule. University students across the country gathered on their campuses to demonstrate, and hundreds of people in Wuhan, where COVID-19 originated, Chengdu, Beijing, and other large cities took to the streets.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said that the so-called golden era of relations with China is over, as the UK needs to evolve its approach towards Beijing. Mr. Sunak made the remarks while addressing Lord Mayor's banquet in London. In his first foreign policy speech, the British Prime Minister said the closer economic ties of the previous decade had been naive. He said the UK now needed to replace wishful thinking with robust pragmatism towards competitors. The speech comes after protests in China over the weekend against the country's strict COVID lockdown laws. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
Welcome back to World News. The world's first intranasal vaccine, Incovac, has received approval for COVID booster doses from Drugs Controller General of India, DCGI. Science and Technology Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh said India is showing the way in COVID care under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He congratulated the Department of Biotechnology for developing and getting DCGI's approval for the vaccine. The Reserve Bank of India has announced the first pilot for the retail digital rupee, which will be launched on Thursday. 8 banks have been identified for phase-wise participation in this pilot. The pilot will initially cover Mumbai, New Delhi, Bengaluru and Bhubaneswar, and later extend to Ahmedabad, Gangtok, Guwahati, Hyderabad, Indore, Kochi, Lucknow, Patna and Shimla. The scope of the pilot may be expanded gradually to include more banks, users and locations as needed. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
The first phase will begin with 4 banks including State Bank of India, ICICI Bank, Yes Bank and IDFC First Bank in 4 cities across the country. 4 more banks including Bank of Baroda, Union Bank of India, HDFC Bank and Kotak Mahindra Bank will join this pilot subsequently. The digital rupee would be in the form of a digital token that represents legal tender. Users will be able to transact with digital rupee through a digital wallet offered by the participating banks and stored on mobile phones. Transactions can be both person to person and person to merchant. The digital rupee would offer features of physical cash like trust, safety and settlement finality. Different features and applications of the digital rupee token and architecture will be tested in future pilots. Madhuri Pange, AIR News, Mumbai.
Vistara Airlines, a joint venture between Tata Sons and Singapore Airlines, will be merged with Tata-owned Air India by March 2024. In a press release, Singapore Airlines and Tata Sons said that they have agreed to the merger subject to regulatory approvals. Singapore Airlines will invest $250 million or 2,000 crore rupees in Air India as soon as this integration is completed. Singapore Airlines, which owns minority shares in Vistara, will own around 25% of the enlarged Air India. The rearrangement will mean a larger fleet and more routes under the Air India brand for worldwide travelling. Tata Group is already in the process of merging Air India Express and Air Asia India into one entity that will provide low-cost flight options. A bust of Mahatma Gandhi will be inaugurated at the United Nations during India's presidency of the UN Security Council next month. It will be inaugurated on the 14th December during External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's visit to the UN for India's presidency of the Council for the month. It will be placed in the expanse of North Lawns of the UN headquarters. The bust, a gift from India, will be the first Gandhi sculpture that will be installed in the UN headquarters.
President Draupadi Murmu has said that Bangladesh occupies a special place in India's neighbourhood first policy. She said she looks forward to stronger and deeper cooperation between India and Bangladesh in all aspects in the coming days. Welcoming the new High Commissioner of Bangladesh to India, Mohammad Mustafizur Rahman, who presented his credentials to the President on Monday, President Murmu said that India-Bangladesh relations are bound by language, culture and history, and the unique tie is forged in shared sacrifices. Referring to her meeting with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in September during her visit to India, President Draupadi Murmu said that there is an immense political will in both the countries to take forward the relations to a new height. She recalled the joint celebration of the birth centenary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the golden jubilee of Bangladesh's War of Liberation and 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties. She also mentioned that Bangladesh is India's largest trade partner in South Asia. She highlighted the largest visa operations of India in Dhaka. At the stock markets, both the key indices posted its record highs today and the rupee weakened slightly against the dollar. In the international market, the Brent crude oil futures surged about 3%. Report from the business desk.
At the stock markets, rising for the 6th straight day, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange gained 177 points or 0.3% to close at a fresh all-time high of 62,682 today. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange added 55 points to a new record high of 18,618. Among other global stock markets, China's Shanghai Composite Index surged 2.3%, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index shot up 5.2%, South Korea's Kospi Index and Singapore's index rose 1% each, but Japan's Nikkei 225 index shed 0.5%. In Europe, London's FTSE had added 0.8%, France's CAC had inched up 0.3%, and Germany's DAX had gained 0.2% in intraday trade. Global crude oil prices jumped about 3% on hopes of a relaxation of China's strict COVID-19 controls after rare protests in Chinese cities over the weekend. So the Brent crude futures spurted $2.50 to trade at $85.69 a barrel. The U.S. crude futures jumped $1.98 or 2.6% to $79.22 a barrel. Back home, gold fell 101 rupees to 52,837 rupees per 10 grams at the Delhi's bullion market amid weak global trends. Silver declined 353 rupees to 61,744 rupees per kilogram. In the international market, gold traded lower at $1,753 per ounce, while silver was at $21.23 per ounce. And at the forex market, the rupee depreciated 5 paise to 81 rupees and 72 paise against the dollar. Rajesh Lake for World News, All India Radio.
International Lusophone Festival is being held from 3rd to 6th December in Goa. Ministry of External Affairs is organizing the festival in partnership with Indian Council of Cultural Relations and Goa government. The festival seeks to further India's connect with the Lusophone world. It will be inaugurated by Chief Minister of Goa, Pramod Sawant, at Darbar Hall in Raj Bhavan. Minister of State for External Affairs, Meenakshi Lekhi, will be the guest of honor. Our correspondent reports that Lusophones are people that speak Portuguese as a native or as common second language. The Lusophone Food and Spirits Festival will also showcase the culinary links between India and the Lusophone world. Former athlete P.T. Usha has been elected unopposed as the president of the Indian Olympic Association, IOA. She was the lone contender and was elected after no other nominations were filed till the deadline on Sunday. The elections were due to be held in the month of December. Usha is the first woman to occupy the top job at IOA in its 95-year history, and she is also the first Olympic winner and international medalist to take over the top post. Earlier this year, she was elected as Member of Parliament in Rajya Sabha.
Moving on to sports, India will take on New Zealand in the third and final ODI on Wednesday. The match at Hagley Oval in Christchurch will start at 7 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Team India will look to level the series as the visitors lost the opening match by 7 wickets, while the second one was called off due to rain. There is a forecast of scattered showers tomorrow in Christchurch. In the FIFA World Cup in Group A fixtures, the Netherlands and Senegal have qualified for round of 16. The Netherlands beat hosts Qatar 2-0 while Senegal defeated Ecuador 2-1 a short while ago. Earlier, Portugal, France and Brazil had qualified for the round of 16 stage.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Washington Post writes, President Biden is expected to call on Congress to avert a possible rail strike. The Guardian writes that Canada won't compromise values in relations with China, says Foreign Minister. South China Morning Post says Beijing needs to bite the bullet over COVID-19.
A quick look at the headlines once again. India's President Draupadi Murmu calls upon technical institutions to become future-ready in view of rapid changes in the field of technology. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says rise of India is deeply linked with the rise of Indian technology. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur inaugurates 59th Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union General Assembly in New Delhi. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak reiterates his country's commitment to free trade agreement with India. Reserve Bank of India to launch first pilot for retail digital rupee. Legendary athlete P.T. Usha becomes first woman president of Indian Olympic Association. India to take on New Zealand in the third and final ODI in Christchurch on Wednesday, and in FIFA World Cup, Netherlands beat Qatar 2-0 while Senegal defeat Ecuador 2-1 in Group A fixtures. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Kenya. with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.